Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Today in Fern Evergreen Guitars I am doing some fretwork on a new neck. So the neck's been made predominantly by someone else, although I have done the sanding and a bit of extra carving, and I've also fretted the neck and I've levelled and crowned the frets. Well, I've levelled the frets. I've also drilled the tuner holes. You can see I've done a wonderful job there. So what we're doing, oh, and I've stained this neck. This is a roasted flamed figured bird's eye combination all maple neck. It's got some flame in it. It's kind of hard to see, maybe the light's too bright. It's got some flame in it, but it's also got some bird's eye in it, which is quite nice because it's sort of half and half, flame, bird's eye. Really cool, really nice neck, and I think it's roasted too. I wasn't told that it was roasted, but it definitely looks roasted even when sanded. It's a really nice shade of roasted maple. So I've stained it, but I've also been doing some sanding on the edge of the frets, and I'm going to do more sanding on the edge of the frets as well. So it's going to be restained. Let's just say this is the first coat of stain. I just wanted to let you in on my process a little bit here, because fretwork is, in my opinion, what makes a luthier. You can tell somebody is knowledgeable in guitars or good at crafting or repairing guitars, I think, pretty much based on their fretwork. If it works well, if it's polished perfectly, if the frets are rounded, if they're well seated, the person knows what they're doing with the majority of a guitar, in my opinion. It's one of the things that probably the hardest thing to do on a guitar, and it takes quite a lot of practice, so you've got to put a lot of time into it, which not a lot of people have that kind of time. So to summarise, I take my fretwork very, very seriously. I was trained by a couple of people how to do fretwork, and I've also innovated some of my own techniques. What I'll be showing you in this video is my process from the leveling point onwards, because everybody should know how to level. If you don't, there's plenty of instructions on how to do that, but it's not really a creative or technical process. You mark off the frets with a Sharpie and you level them with either a leveling beam or a leveling file, and when all of the frets, sorry, cheap iPhone holder thing, and when all of the frets are, when there's a clear line of metal showing through the marker pen, you know that the fret is level with the fret before it. And if all of the fretboard is like that, and there's a line going through all of the marker, Sharpie marker that you've put on it, then you know that pretty much it's level. You have to obviously think about it a little bit more than that, because you can work in one area way more than the rest of the board, and you might have to adjust accordingly. But if you imagine, it has to be straight, it has to be level, it has to just be level. So, you know, that's an easy thing to do. Not much instruction that I'll do on that one this time. I might do it if I get asked to do it, that's fine. But what I use predominantly now is one of these fret cover things. What I do with that, I'll start again with this, because a lot of people see these on like eBay and different kinds of luthier shops and stores online and stuff, and they think that's never going to be useful in a million years. Well, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but with a bit of modification it can really do a good job. I get quality masking tape here, like this frog tape. I cut a bit off, and then I align it to the edge. I stick it down, I fold over the other edge, and then the other edge, and then I fold over that edge. I'll neaten it up then with like a blade or something, so if I've got an extra bit overlapping, I don't want like too much height in one area. I want it all basically level, but that will stick down fine. I'll do that on the other side as well. Getting a bit cockney there. I'll do that on the other side as well, love, don't worry about it. Conveniently my neighbours are laughing at the same time. Is he talking to himself in there? You can even do it the other way around. Might actually be a bit better if you fold it first. So I'm the kind of person who probably does it both ways every time, differently. All different ways I can think of before hitting a stride with it. Because I like that. I overthink everything. So cut it back to a nice seagull like tool. You can then place that on your fret, and what that does is save you a bunch of money on tape, a bunch of time, and therefore money on taping up the whole of the board. You don't need rubber bands or anything like that, because you can grip from over here on the fret, and all you need to do is really push down and concentrate. It doesn't work so well on really low frets, because you'll find that the metal is pretty much at the same height as a really low fret, so you'll probably need to tape off a board then. But for 90% of the other applications I've been using this for, it works and it saves me a lot. So, trick of the trade. Why is he giving away his secrets? He must be mad. So, take your crowning file at this point. Now, this is where it can get a little bit more complicated. You've marked off, or you will mark off, the frets again after leveling it. I've got a little bit removed from some sanding that I did to the edge of the board. I think I added a bit of super glue to the side and sanded it off, something like that. Oh damn, I got it on the board. That's what I really didn't want to do. I'm so tired. I've had tons of orders, tons of work come in, and I've also been building extensions to the workshop, a spray booth, and just countless other things to do. Machine setup, new bandsaws, new tools to learn. Anyway, so you've remarked all of the frets. Got your crowning file, 3-point file with a safety edge, and you've got your new fret covering device. What I do then is I will lean into one side of the fret, and I will do half leaning in, more so than the other side. So I've just got an extra bit of angle. I'm angling the file towards the back edge. So this is the low E side. I've gone further down, you might not be able to see it, but I've gone further down on this side. Now think about it this way, you've got 22 opportunities. You've got 22 opportunities on the fretboard to intonate the guitar and intonate every chord. And I was really thinking about it one day in this process. I thought, well, why not try to do intonation on the frets in the filing? It's not easy. I'm not saying it's an exact science to be able to do it with two hands and your eyes, but if you practice, if you're a good luthier, if you want to invest your time in becoming one, that's an interesting thing to think about, right? Because you can already buy fretboards with intonated frets. The name escapes me right now because I'm tired, but they're very difficult to level and crown and all of that kind of stuff. And if you have an issue like it pulls up and stuff, you've got to take it to a tech where they really know about those frets and they know how to do it. They're quite, shall we say, they're quite unique and they're quite rare to find. And intonated frets have to be put in with CNC. You can't do it any other way. You can't route the fretboard freehand and then put intonated frets into it. It has to all be CNC'd, and it's not expensive, that much more expensive, but it is considerably more of an expense than just buying some frets and fretting a guitar neck yourself. So back to the job. I just lean into that side, and the low E obviously on the bridge is going to be the lowest side. I then use the file scooping across towards the opposite side of the fret where the high E goes high, right? So, and then I just basically skim the edges of both sides to sort of bring it to the center of something, you know. I just basically make a center for the rest of the fret. God, this is just ridiculously stupid. I mean, why make a phone holder that doesn't bloody hold the phone straight? I mean, there's just no point to it, is there? It's just ridiculous. Sound like Basil 40. So you can't see. Can you see? It's very hard to see. iPhone 7. I'm going to get an iPhone 11. My girlfriend's nearly convinced me. This part of the fret is crowned lower. I leaned into it on this side. This side of the fret, up until about the middle, is crowned higher. At its highest point is over here where the top E would hit the fret. Then I've just basically rounded over to make a bit of a center, so that it's not just sharp on one edge, and so no edge is sharp, so that it can follow a curve when I go into rounding over with the sandpapers. So that's my trick. That's my tip. I know I didn't probably explain it that well because I'm tired, but angling with the file one side and then the opposite side, it can give you a vague improvement in intonation, like a general improvement, sorry, not vague. A general improvement to your intonation is achievable just with learning that technique. So with that in mind, I go across the whole board with the file, crowning it, crowning each fret, and just bear in mind my line is going to be wobbly and diagonal from one low end to the other high end. Basically just look at the bridge, look at how the saddles are, look at how they sit, and just imitate that. Just like aggregate it across the board. And technically it's a little bit more complicated than that, but you're gonna help, you know, like It's basically that shape up and down the board. I've looked at those special frets that are made with CNC and lasers and high-tech stuff, and that's basically what they do. They follow like a kind of wavy bottom to top thing. And the difference with this is that you can do bends like really easy, and I think on those frets it's not so easy to do bends. They're very accurate, but not so much crazy rock and roll fun to be had. So I'm not going to do every fret, obviously. I'm just kind of showing you how I lean into it a bit. It's a bit of a swooping motion at an angle of about maybe 30, 25 degrees. Maybe more, maybe less. You just want the fret to like be ground. So with these done, I'll show you the next step for me, which is to get some 400 grit sandpaper or a sanding block. So these sanding blocks can be picked up for about 30, 40p, maybe 50p in your local hardware place. And they range from in different grits, but this one's I say about 400. They class it as fine, but fine in like general woodworking is about 400 or 300, sometimes 240, but even 240 can do this job. I mean, once it wears out a bit, especially. So just rub over the fret with that, going in at a bit of an angle on either end. But you also remember that you don't want to knacker this out, so just take it easy. Just do a general of refinement. You just refine with each step. You don't have to go crazy with sandpapers, like spending hours and hours. You do have to get the filing right at first. Like I can see here that in my haste or my something else, I left a couple of dents there. Yeah, you don't have to go crazy into the details, is what I was saying. Just start with something a bit rougher. Very lightly going in here where there's a couple of marks I've left. And at this point all of the permanent marker is removed from the fretboard. We'll check all of this after. After this process I probably would check the how level the frets are, because you've used the roughest grit sandpaper at that point, so the most amount of material in the rounding over process, the most amount of material can be removed with the lowest grit, obviously. So take a fret rocker, hit the frets, and when you feel that rocking, that's a high fret. Now that's a really high fret for some reason. It might have moved in the last few days because I did level this board as soon as I'd fretted it. I might have neglected that one fret. I kind of doubt it, but it's probably moved either with heat or something else. What we'll do is go in with some super glue, and we'll try and hammer that first, and then go in with some super glue to try and permanently keep it at one place. There's a bit of a high spot here. So at this point, just go back in and just double check everything. I know that I did this neck really quickly, so I'm going to have a couple of issues like this where the frets aren't perfect like I want them to be. But we'll see if hammering to seat them. We've got a tool that is right, so that's all we're going to do for now. Maybe I can actually just quickly just double check everything further up the board. I obviously spend way more time further up the board when doing a fret level because one, you're doing a lot more bends and everything needs to be a lot more focused and refrained around that area from sort of like 9 and further onwards. So you also want to have what we call fall away, which is this fret's slightly high. You want to have fall away, which is where the 12th to the end of the board is lower than the rest of the board, just ever so slightly. It increases the ability to have really low action from the bridge. If you're playing up here and you've got buzzing, because these frets are basically the same height as this, it's a lot easier to sort it out by just doing some fall away here in the fret leveling process. Anyway, I digress, and I'm too tired to digress. I'm not going to make enough sense for myself.